Okay. Cool. Sorry if you tuned in earlier. I was having loads of battery issues. Everything was running out of batteries, so apologise for that. So, as I said earlier, which you probably didn't hear, I'm hearing a lot of buzz about Framer at the moment, and I've not used Framer. I've known about it for a while. As far as I'm aware, it's a React tool, a no-code tool that generates React code. It's got its own library, animation library, and that's kind of it. I haven't even looked at this thing. I haven't even looked at what it's capable of doing or anything like that, and that's what this is all about. But of course, you're here because I'm a developer. I've been a developer for nearly 20 years now. I'm interested to know what it's like, as what kind of code it develops. And we're going to, I think what my loose plan is before I sat down to do this is I'm going to run through the interface, and I'm just going to give you my first kind of impressions. I'm hopefully not going to spend too long on this. Give me your first impressions, and then of course just take a look at the tool itself and the code that it generates. I think that's where that's what I'm mostly interested in. So what I'm going to do is, you'll see if I head to here. Are you seeing that okay? No, you're not. Let's go to screen, I think. Yes, save. Let's get you window capture and put you into Brave. This is the one. Yep, and you can see my mouse, which is perfect. This is as far as I've got. Literally no idea. I'll keep you here so I can see if I go offline. This is as far as I got, and then I'm just going to take a look at it. So let's just look at the product itself. Design and ship your dream site with zero code, maximum speed. So to me, this looks like it's online. It's not like something you download. It's an in-browser thing, and so then it includes hosting. It looks like there's a sort of designer, like a. It looks like it focuses more as a designer than it does like a web tool. I think it's it looks like it sits in between Webflow and Figma by letting you design. It makes you feel more like you're designing. So it'll be interesting to see again what code it generates and how it enforces good coding practices. So, okay, cool. And then let's look at pricing. Free, designer, frame banner, landing pages. I'm in Hungary, which is why it's coming up like that. What is that? That is 1,500. That's about £5 a month or something. £3-4 a month per user by the looks of things, and that's yearly. So custom domain. So it's kind of similar to Webflow. Let's just quickly look here. Let's go here. I'm kind of rushing through it just so we get a loose overview and we can just get into the tool. Lightning fast. Creativity, build stunning sites, animations. Yeah. To me, this looks like it leans more into the designer crowd, than any sort of Webflow crowd. So let's continue with Google. And I'm just going to take that away. Just logging in. cool. Right. I am creating my account. You can't see this for now. Team name. For those who can't see, I'm just setting up my recommend team to any users. Let's pop this on and see what you see there. You see that? No. Okay, whatever. I'm recommend the team to any users joining default editor. Let's skip that step. Sorry about this. Wonderful. Oh no, you can't see it. There we go. So take the tour. Design, publish, beautiful size. Blah, blah, blah. Let's just go. Let's just get in there. Click the start. Okay, insert. Let's just work through the interface. Go to dashboard, quick actions, file, remix. I wonder what that is. Tool. Oof. Really does seem like a design tool. So insert. So here we go. We've got some components here, ready-made components. I'll probably use mostly these collection lists, so it's got a built-in CMS. I kind of anticipated that. Elements, media. Looks nice. I think the interface looks quite nice. Surprised I don't have a dark mode immediately. I'm on dark mode right now, but probably won't take long. Forms. Oh, so that's cool. So it's got some built-in integrations there with forms. It doesn't use its own form system by the looks of things. It's an external form thing. Icons, built-in icon sets, which is nice. Interactive. Patterns. What's patterns? I guess these are just components. Social. Utility. Okay. You just drag and drop. Okay, cool. So that's in the insert. Layouts, frame. What's a frame? So this is what I'm interested in. Like, obviously, I'm going to try and come at this from a point of like, I've been doing web development for so long. And there are obviously ways to do things, but I'm trying to like break myself away from thinking like that. But when I see this, when I see like this free form dragging and whatever, this is always going to end up with messy code because it's not in relationship to anything. Whereas at least in Webflow, if you drag something, it sort of locks, and if it's a block level element, it will just like, boom, it will just be a block sort of thing. So this doesn't encourage great coding practices because it further reminds a designer that they can just drag and drop something anywhere. Just out of curiosity, I'm just going to publish that. Blah, blah, blah. Let's have a little look. And let's now look at the code. So you've got a diff here. So hopefully you can see this. Left. Position absolute. This is what I'm talking about. Like, and then responsivity is probably just kind of working it out. Kind of thinking what it wants you to do. What's that? That's position absolute as well. I guess that's okay to be position absolute. See, I thought this was React code. I don't know why I thought it was React code. But this does not look like React code. Now I'm curious. So, this looks pretty minimal. There's not loads of libraries in there. MJS, what's that? That's like CoffeeScript or something. So it must use a lot of its own libraries, again, from like an animation standpoint, but also just maybe how it does certain things. Let's have a look at the size of these files. Where is it? Frame it, user content, sites. Frame user content, sites. Just looking at how big some of these things are. So not too bad. Biggest thing is 108 kilobytes, which ain't too bad really. Ain't too bad. Okay, cool. Let's just jump back into the code. Yeah, so what I was saying is like, just being able to position stuff everywhere isn't great, or encouraging you that you can position stuff everywhere just isn't great for responsivity, but there you go. Let's delete that. So look around. So layout, frame, image, rows. See again. Oof. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of just free will kind of dragging and dropping, because it doesn't set relationships between things. So I'm probably butchering this totally on how to properly use it, but it's first impressions, whatever. Columns, grid, and text. Yeah. Now, is there any way to have that be a child of that? So it's a child. Okay, so you're not setting on the parent, and presumably that's flex. Okay. We'll look. Creates a lot of HTML, I will say, and that's the thing, when it abstracts you away from the, what do you call it? When it abstracts you away from the concepts of web development, it's doing a lot of filling in, which I always criticize Webflow for doing that, but at least the HTML that it actually created was mostly exactly what you created. It created very little bloat, but this is like, so that is display flex. So that within its flex, it's kind of deciding a lot of this stuff for you. So yeah, let's keep going. Layout, okay, text, that was basic. CMS, nice that you can import CSVs. Blog, what's that? Okay, so it's just a default collection. Sample blog. Okay. What are breakpoints like? Because Webflow is desktop first, which means you design for desktop and then you add mobile as you work your way down. I'm guessing. Oh, that's cool. That's cool how you can have everything side by side. Makes me think about performance. This does. See, I reckon this is probably a WebAssembly project like Figma, and almost under the hood it's doing a conversion. It's converting a WebAssembly project like this, where it's just graphics, and it's converting it to HTML. Jesus Christ, it's good. That's up there. Which will mean it'd be very performant rather than two windows rendering HTML. Let's change that to a different color. Publish, update. It's very fast. So max width. So again, yeah. So it's desktop first code. Yeah, it's pretty messy HTML if I'm honest. Let's have a look. What about classes actually? Is it all inline? Like, what about reusable? Because I know. I know they have this idea of components. Like, if I want to change that, show file update content. What about components? Assets, components. Here we go. New component. Right, component. Okay. Oh, that's cool. Presumably that's an animation thing. Oof, I'm getting lost in this thing now. Right, I'm getting too deep. Too deep. By the way, like I say, if this video does okay, and people are interested to learn more about Framer, I'd be happy to do a follow-up video on actually me learning it a little bit and doing a bit more of a deep dive. But right now I'm just kind of looking and comparing to Webflow and looking at it from a coding standpoint. Okay. Okay, so it duplicates it every time. Let's have a look at that heading, because this will be something that's created well, presumably. So it's creating classes. Here it's creating classes. I'm super keen on how you'd create a class. I'll delete that. Okay, let's just clean up the interface a little bit so we're working with this. Yeah, let's have a look at classes. I'm sick, by the way. This is not ideal for the situation. Copy style. Stuff like this seems quite weird, that it's in like a right-click menu. Overflow. Overlays. Whoa. Others. I don't want that. It's really pushing my preconceptions. Like, why would overlay be at the top there? Why is that like really prevalent in this list of tools? Can you move these around? I like that focus. See that? When you create an overlay, it just gives you that overlay stuff. I quite like that. I think Webflow is like a focus mode. Boom, boom, boom. I'm still looking for classes link. Okay, that's just to make whatever I've just clicked on into a link. I'm not liking this, guys. I know this is like first impressions, but I could create, so what I just saw there is that I could create this. So, okay, let's go here, insert, so I want to insert a link. So I want to create a button. Okay, and I go sections, pages. Okay, this is a perfect example, right? Boom. Let's see what happens here. So if I go to, let's have a link to the About page. New tab, no. Publish this, date. So that's turned into a button. So we'll look what's going on here. So it's wrapped. So okay, so it's converted it to a link. I quite like that. So you don't have to know about links. You just create something and you will make it into a link. It does a lot of that heavy lifting for you, which is quite nice. Stack is obviously some sort of flex. Flex or grid thing. Something's up with the sound. There's a click. Yeah, I know. It's annoying. Is it super loud? I think it's the fact. In fact, actually, it could be because I had it charging. Let me know if that that resolves it. Just before I started this stream, everything ran out of battery. I was on like waiting screen on this and everything ran out of battery. My camera, my light, the microphones. So I just had to kind of stop it, pause, charge everything, and I've just been charging that on the side to keep it going whilst I started the stream. So scroll section. Okay, so this is giving it an ID. So it really is like abstracting you away from any coding concepts, any kind of web development concepts. Let me know if that clicking stopped now. Which I can see the benefits of, particularly if you're learning, but my mind's just like wondering of the cons of that. I think for a start it gets messy. You'll start to create, because the thing about Webflow websites is that they become messy because you feel like you can just do whatever you want, and that leads to a lot of websites with just loads of like too much HTML and various things like that. But this does feel like it limits you a little bit in that. Accessibility tips. I like how tags are accessibility. Tags are not accessibility, mate. That's just web development. I suppose, again, trying to be not too harsh. I mean, you've got area labels and stuff. I think with tags are an interesting one. I think when you create elements, maybe I should have followed the tutorial, but I think when you create elements, it needs to ask like something like, what is this? Like a bubble pops up or something. Like, what is this? Or what are you going to put in here? Or something like that. Because it's not getting in people's heads that you want to you're building a website for technology. That's a really interesting point, actually, and that's something I've not thought of before. I've been trying to tell it in a different way. You're building websites for technology to then interpret it for the user. So I think we're forgetting this middle layer of the browser being a technology that needs to interpret the website to then present it to the user in the correct way. And if you don't use correct HTML and blah, 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 I've made tons of videos on all this kind of stuff. You run the risk of browsers changing their mind on certain things, or, not using or not deciding that if you create too many elements, or I don't know, I'm making stuff up right now. But if you do something that it doesn't want to support anymore, then you've broken that experience, which is why you remain, you have those standards basically. Anyway, I've rambled on too much about that. But it's just weird that that's under accessibility, but I like they have area labels. It'd be nice if they had like more informational stuff on there. Let's have a little look at that. Accessibility is my bag, of course. This is nice. Nice friendly interface. And presumably if you click on an image, let's drag an image into here. Oh, look, it's me. Let's drag me into there. For my next travel YouTube video. Shameless plug. I would assume that would go into like a alt text here. That's weird. Publish. What does that code look like? So here's an image. Got all this gump though. All that gump. Pointer events none. Display contents, border radius. Like, what is all this? It's creating a lot of bloated code, which I don't like. Let's keep going, baby. Code overrides. What's this? Edit code. Ah, look at this. We're under the skin. We're in the bones. We're nestled in the bones. So these are functions that they've created. So it is React. This how to get out of here now. That's my image. So the thing is with React code is that you just take one little div and React loads everything into that div. So if I disable JavaScript here, what happens? Still works. So I have no idea what's going on there. some sort of caching. Everything seems to work okay. Onwards. How long have we been on at the moment? 31 minutes, okay. Let's pick up the pace. Handoff. Oh, okay. Really, this is a designer's tool. Absolutely designer's tool. And everyone used to talk to me about, you know, if they build something in Framer, is that better for me to use as a coder? So, which is interesting because I've not seen any indication that you need a coder involved in this process whatsoever. Unless that's the intended workflow, but again, I've not followed any tutorials or anything like that. Interesting. Okay. It feels pretty basic. Opacity feels very basic. It feels like it's great for landing pages. In fact, do you know what? Awesome Framer websites. Let's have a look what people are doing with it. Best Framer, see Framer motion. What's Framer motion? That's the other thing. Is this different? Same logo. So I want some showcase. I want some sort of showcase. Community. So we've got templates. Look at this. What's new in the CMS? Probably not. Let's go open here. Like these just look really, really basic websites. This is like my first. It feels like it's like my first website type of stuff. I could be wrong. Oh, purple. We all like purple now. So if I wanted to write, that's it. So I want to make that into a header. Yeah, so then you get weird mixes of like really user-friendly, you know, language, but then you've got like type relative. I wonder if that would be confusing for people. But I want to make this a title. How do I do that? How do I make that into it? Because this is text. As a user, I think, okay, I'm going to add some text in. But then I want to make it into a header. So how do I make that into a header? Position, size. Styles. Maybe this one? There we go. Yeah, it introduces a lot of ways, like new paradigms or ways of thinking about building websites, which is interesting. Is there any way to add custom code, like CSS. That, because then it gets what, then you look at this and be like, fuck, what's going on? I feel like they're asking a lot of people with this reasonably dumbed down version of a or a design tool, and then you can nip into the React files, which you wouldn't use React for like a website that this is capable of doing. You wouldn't use React for that. You wouldn't use React for like a static website. You'd use React for something like a dashboard or something like this. Yeah. Well, I haven't found the custom code bit other than these JavaScript files. Let's have a look here. So I can write some CSS within those or whatever, but I'm limited. It feels like I'm limited to the CSS of this. Limited to the CSS that I can create in these things. Okay. Domains. This is not. Can I? That's nice. You get different versions. Put it in analytics. It's cool. Bigger sites. I wonder if that that means anything. Like whether it gives you additional features. Okay. I have some thoughts. In my brief encounter with Framer, which I'm curious to look at in a bit more detail. Once again, if this video does okay and people ask for it, I'm willing to go in a little bit deeper. But my verdict is, it feels like it can build very basic websites using a simplistic view. Sometimes, in some cases intuitive, but a very simplistic view on how websites should be built. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting for you by assuming, rightly so, in that link example, assuming that this is what you want to do or this is what you want to create, rather than you knowing that a link is something what you want to do, because you might decide later on it's going to be a link, for example. So it leans quite heavily onto the designer aspect. The code itself is quite bloated. But the files, the JavaScript files and things like that are quite light. So, and I feel like the React side of things is a bit of a punch in the face of like, if you've got this really simple, easy to use interface, and then you're confronted with React code, like that feels like it might be just jarring if you end up stumbling into that or doing something like that. So I'm interested to see where it will go, but it seems to sit in between, put itself in between Figma and Webflow, but it's not quite Wix. Yeah, for Figma users who don't want to learn Webflow, but is slightly more capable than something like Wix or Squarespace or something like that, where you've got a very, very limited set of tools that abstract that idea away from you of any sort of web development. So I think that makes sense. But I'm going to leave it there. I think I've looked at that enough I'm going to formulate my thoughts and maybe put something down. But yeah, if you want to see more about the Figma stuff, if you want me to, I'll properly look at some tutorials. I'll really do some sort of research on it and understand what they're trying to achieve. And then maybe if I can build something a bit more. I mean, I looked at their components. I looked at some of the components in fact, actually, one last thing before we go. Let's just drag some of their built-in components to home. Let's just double check those. Yeah, let's just drag in some of their components. See, this is what I don't like. It's just this I can put this anywhere sort of thing. Seems like you need to create, I can't put that at the root sort of thing like I did with that image. It looks like you need to create stuff. But anyway, I'm going to just quickly publish that. Lovely Action is my website is called. There you go. Let's have a little look. So these are their components. And you can see like inline styles you've got going on here. It's creating your own classes. So reusability could be interesting, but then I think they're leaning into the making components and reusing components. But it just feels like there's a lot. And what's the header doing there? Like, what's the header doing there? Anyway, that's all I wanted to quickly look at. So yeah, if you want me to create more content on Framer, a few of you have asked for it. I'll be happy to do so if the interest is there. But as someone who obviously loves to code, who's a coder first and foremost, this to me feels like it would ultimately hold someone like me back. If you know Webflow, if you're fairly comfortable with Webflow, then stick with Webflow, because I think this is going to hold you back, because you already understand. At least Webflow has, like, other than a few rare scenarios, it doesn't hold back from telling you what the actual proper terms for this stuff is, the HTML tags, the elements and things like that. So I think this could be a next step from someone who's maybe using Squarespace. A designer who's got a design eye, who knows what they want to do, but can't do it in something like Squarespace. So I think that's my kind of verdict at this point. But like I say, let me know. And I guess until next time, happy no coding.